Good evening, students. This is Professor Estrada with your week 4 and 5 video lecture. I hope that these video lectures have helped you in some way, making that connection if we were personal, more so as if we were in class. In class, we would have a traditional lecture, being able to answer questions, ask questions, and receive answers along the way. But I hope that these lecture side videos have been a little bit to become familiarized with how the course is set up and to kind of know that there is a person behind the screen. To start off, I'm going to be on the home page. As always, I record these videos and have a tendency to open up the folder a couple of days early. As you can see, I'm opening this up the couple of days before it's Monday start date. And so we're on the home page. I have recap announcements right here on the left side tab. As always, you can look at those recap announcements. I always post one at the end of the week, signaling out what we did that week and or late pass reminders for the course. And as always, a late pass reminder on that Sunday night to kind of let you know, hey, this is where the extension may be at. As always, I can be reached at aestrada@hillcollege.edu. We have the work to do and the calendar. While those are great, always proceed with the content tab and the syllabus course due date, as some things are different. I'm clicking on the content tab right now, and we're going to be looking at, on this video, week 4 part 1, week 4 part 2, week 4 part 3, as you can tell that actually has 3 parts, and week 5 the last. So we have a little bit of everything in these last couple of sections. I'm going to go ahead and open up the week 4 part 1 folder. When you open it up, on the left side tab, it does have things that you have to scroll over. Pay no mind to these little emojis. By the time you see this, they'll be visible to you and all of the things within the folder. So we have the week 4 part 1. While it looks like a lot, I guarantee you sometimes the poems or the works themselves, the text, I usually find an audio. That's why it fills up a little bit more. So we have the lecture slides, Introduction to the Romantic Period. We have the week 4 video, which you'll be looking at this for week 5 as well. Lecture slides on the continuation of spotlight authors. So we have lecture slides on the period itself, but also lecture slides for the authors that you'll be looking at, Emerson, Thoreau, and Longfellow. We have to read The Tide Rises and the Tide Falls by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. We have its audio. To read O Nature by Thoreau. The audio as well. Let us consider just the text by Henry David Thoreau. We have the Boston Hymn by Emerson, and Self-Reliance as a text and audio by Emerson. I include the audio for many students that prefer the audio, whereas some students actually like to read, and it doesn't mind. Pay no mind to whichever option, as long as you're able to read or look at one of them. Following through with these texts, after you do that, you will be completing discussion board number 7, Understanding the Lines, and I include the word count link. The due date for the week 4 folder submission is Sunday, July 5th. It also says right here that the analytical essay and the letters to the Civil War assignment will be due in the week 5 folder, so there'll be modules for you to put those things in there. And then it says, note, while the calendar, the to-do list on the homepage may say July 7th at 4, that just gives you the 2 extra days, but the week 4 folder is actually due on that Sunday, July 5th. We should note that oftentimes I give you up to 4 days extra to turn in stuff with a deduction of 25 points per each day, but here in a minute you'll see why it gets cut off at July 7th. It also says that the essay and the letters to the Civil War will be due in week 5. Their folders, I think I have it right there. It's copied twice right there for you. It also says that the analytical essay is due Monday, July 6th, not until 11:59 p.m. It says failure to not turn in on that day will result in automatic 30 points off. You can still turn it in late, leading up to Tuesday, July 7th at 4 p.m. After that, it will result in a 0. I must be able to read and receive the essay through the submission window. If I cannot view it or access it, I cannot grade it. This essay will consist and require a works cited page as stated in the syllabus. Failure to submit a works cited page will result in a 0. I will not accept anything after Tuesday, July 7th, as my grading book will close for me to start grading essays and or last minute assignments such as extra credit bonus points. Do not wait until after that to turn in something. It also says my grading book will close Tuesday, July 7th at 4. It says that final grades try to be posted by Thursday, July 9th, but the Hill College requires them to be at least posted for you Friday, July 10th. So let's go ahead and look into those folders. We have the lecture slides for our Romantic period as follows. So we have the lecture slides, the introduction for the Romantic period right here. We're going to be looking at some lecture notes and key themes and the completion of the week 4 part 1 folder. It also says right here, these slides just encompass the introduction to the Romantic period. Other slides will highlight the authors and the biographies. So we have the contents just as I listed them. Notice that due date, Sunday, July 5th at 11:59. For a lot of people, it's just easier if they looked at the lecture slides first or the video and then they go in. It just tells you the same thing. What I normally like to do in an in-person class is I go over my slides so that way you as a student know what we're expecting for that day or that week. All right, so let's get started into the Romantic period. 1798 to 1837. In the mid-1850s, as the United States was beginning to shape its own identity within the realm of literature, American Romanticism emerged. This literary movement holds unique importance to the American history because it's known to be the first full-fledged literary movement of America. This movement saw the emergence of writers celebrating American beauty and identity. The Romantic period lecture notes continuation. The emergence of American Romanticism saw the celebration of the common man. Romanticism to some was a renaissance in the sense of flowering excitement over human possibilities and a high regard for individual ego. In other words, American Romanticism celebrated the unknown. As Americans began to venture westward into newly acquired territories, authors began to write about the beauty of the natural landscape untouched by man. The aesthetic of nature is something that was extremely important to the American Romantic writers and arguably noted in their works. Romanists prized emotion and the individual self in relation to the outer world, and man in relation to nature. Romanticism also placed great emphasis on the human mind and the subconscious, as well as a great unknown, which resulted in the exploration of darker, more gothic themes and storylines. Let me go ahead and zoom out a little bit more. All right, that's better. Primarily centered in Britain, Romanticists sought to rebel against the neoclassicism and the formalism of the early part of the century. While neoclassicism looked to the past in ancient classical works, forms, and structures, Romanticism cast off these ideals and sought to build something new. In 1830, the citizens of early America were anxious to find a sense of self that expressed uniquely American ideals, separate from European values. The American Romantic movement challenged rational thinking in favor of emotion, creativity, and imagination. The short stories, novels, and poems produced featured vivid detail about the undeveloped American landscape or the industrialized society. American Romanticism celebrated individualism, the exploration of emotions, and finding truth in nature as a spiritual connection. This time period placed an emphasis on imagination and creativity and consisted of writers who yearned to define a uniquely American national identity separate from that of Europe. So what are 5 main characteristics of the American Romanticism period? Romanticism is marked by a focus on individualism, an emphasis on nature, emotion over reason, freedom of form, and exploration of the Gothic and unknown. So let's look at those a little bit. I'm going to read maybe just 1 or 2 of the bullets. So we have the key element, focus on the individual. The first one reads, American Romanticism believed in the importance of the individual over society. As the American landscape expanded, people moved from the country to forge a living for themselves. The American population also changed and became more diverse with a rise in immigration. Okay, there's also 2 bullet forms that follow. We also have the key definition of the romantic hero. The romantic hero is a literary character, that has been rejected by society and has rejected society's established norms and conventions. The romantic hero becomes the center of his or her own universe, is typically the protagonist of a piece of work, and the central focus of the character's thoughts and emotions rather than their actions. We also have the celebration of nature. For many American romantic writers, including Walt Whitman, nature was a source of spirituality. American romantics focused on the unknown and beautiful American landscape. The uncharted territory of the outdoors was an escape from the societal constraints. I'm just reading a couple of bullets. Okay. We also have freedom of form. During the Industrial Revolution, a time of progress for the American society and of optimism, the ideology focused on the importance of ingenuity and the ability of the average person to succeed with hard work and creativity. The Romantic writers valued the power of imagination and wrote about it to escape overpopulated, polluted cities. Then we have emotion over reason. This element was presented as a shift from logical, traditional thinking to thinking based off authenticity. It served as a critique of the Enlightenment and the Puritan ages. And there's a couple of bullets that follow. So this is kind of like an introduction to just the Romantic period. It doesn't encompass all of it, but it's just highlighted integral parts that I thought best suited for the course. We also have the slides that continue to show our spotlight authors. Oh, there. Sorry, I got ahead to myself. Okay, so these are the spotlight authors for this section. We have in this content the same thing that you just saw: Emerson, Thoreau, and Longfellow. So we have a little bit of the biographies of these authors. We have Emerson, 1803 to 1882. And I wrote a quote right here that he wrote: "Nature never hurries. Atom by atom, little by little, she achieves her work." And here's some biography of him. He was the father of the Transcendentalist movement, son of a minister, and became one himself. Like Poe, he suffered losses of loved ones and considered the spiritual voice of his generation. Okay, and then it says right here, in order to earn a living, Emerson turned to lecturing. A marvelously effective speaker, he began to give public lectures. He warned against the materialism and money-making that were becoming a driving force in the nation. Okay, and there's a little bit about him right here as well. It says that he rejected the old views and aesthetics that looked for new and different definitions of art and beauty. He found these new definitions in nature. His point of interest was journalism and nonfiction, fiction and poetry, writing and publishing. We have some major works by Emerson: the Boston Hymn, which you are reading; Essays, which were published in 1841, which contains Self-Reliance, another one of his works that you're reading. Those essays incorporated his themes of lifestyle, such as virtue, death, and unity. We have Henry David Thoreau, 1817 to 1862. It's not what you look at, it's what you see. Here's some important facts and bibliography of Henry David Thoreau, 1817 to 1862. One of his first memories was of staying late at night looking through the stars to see if he could see God through them. He was a poet, writer, abolitionist, naturalist, tax resister, surveyor, historian, and leading transcendentalist. While at Harvard, Henry read a novel titled Nature by his fellow colleague and neighbor, Emerson, which propelled him to seek new ideologies and philosophies. So they were all in the same circles. Major works by Thoreau: Nature, written in response to a metaphor. Let us consider, taken from Malden, Chapter 1, Economy, exploring the meaning of relevance and conformity. And then we have Longfellow, Look then into thine heart and write, 1807 to 1882. Then we have some important facts and biography of Longfellow. He taught at Harvard beginning in 1836. He married Frances Appleton and had 6 children together with her. His wife tragically died after becoming severely burned in a fire. His famous beard contains scars from attempting to save his wife. He also enjoyed translating major works such as Dante's Divine Comedy. And some of Longfellow's accolades: more than 1 million copies of his poetry has been sold. was granted private audiences with royalty such as Queen Victoria, became the first American to be honored on memorial in the Poets' Corner of Westminster Abbey, a distinction reserved for the greatest English poets. I do apologize for the background. It's my niece and nephew running around like a bunch of hooligans. The Tide Rises and the Tide Falls, which is one of the poems that you'll be reading for this section, is made famous in 1880, tells of a traveler who rushes along the shore as the sun sets. It is a contrast of the ongoing cycles of the natural world. And I hope that you enjoyed that poem as much as I do reading it and analyzing it in class. But it's such an in-depth poem. Okay? Those are our slides for the biographies of those authors. And as mentioned, I'm so sorry, they're running around. We have the text and the audio for The Tide Rises and The Tide Falls. We have O Nature, the text and the audio. Let Us Consider by Henry David Thoreau. The Boston Hymn by Emerson. Self-Reliance, the text and the audio, whichever option you choose. And then we have the discussion board number 7. Okay? And this one says, discussion board number 7. After reading the poetry of some of the influential writers of this time, think in terms of poetry, philosophy, nature, simplicity, and the pursuit of life. Look at the poems and authors from the slides and the corresponding. Okay? And then it says that I would like you to answer all of these questions in their sections. So some questions are in accordance to just one author or 2 authors or all the authors. And so part 1 has 2 questions. It's just for Longfellow. And then part 2 has some, Thoreau, Emerson. So you are more than welcome to list by author. You're more than welcome to list by question or by section. Okay? And they show you what question goes for what section. There's no word count to your original post. Just make sure that if each question is asking you to complete it in a certain amount of sentences, please do so at your own pace. And then respond to others. After submitting your post, just reply to one other person. Think about what you would like to give them as feedback and make sure that you reply in at least 100 to 200 words. Okay? And then the due date is Sunday, July 5th. It gives you the 2 extra days. This is when the grading book closes. But after that, nothing else can go in. And then I also included the word count link if you would like to use that to help count your words. I'm now going to open up the week 4 folder, part 2. So we have a continuation. There's a couple of things in this one as well. All right. So the same thing for week 4 folder, part 2. We have the week 4, part 2 slides. We have the poem Ain't I a Woman by Sojourner Truth. We also have it listed as an audio, as read by Kerry Washington, known for her portrayal in movies such as Save the Last Dance and the TV show Scandal. We have the story, The Artist of the Beautiful by Nathaniel Hawthorne, who many of you know as the author of The Scarlet Letter. So this is one of his other stories, as well as Rappaccini's Daughter. So these are 2 stories not normally famous by Hawthorne, but I chose them to put right here. It's also included as a web page. And then after you read those works, I would like you to continue with quiz 4 and a assignment titled Significance of a Title. Note that the final exam will be placed in the week 4 part 3 folder. The due date for this also encompasses a week 4 due date. And then it just has all the reminders for the said week of week 4 and the due date for the essay. They're just going to repeat, so that way you have them in every folder and don't have to go back to any of the other ones. The window for the final exam will run Monday, June 29th through Sunday, July 5th. And if you know me, I'm recording this a little bit earlier, so you get more than plenty of extra days to have the final opened. You'll be given 2 attempts and up to 3 hours per each attempt. It is cumulative and it covers everything within the semester. And then this also tells you that my grading book closes Tuesday. Grade book should be opened up at least by Thursday so that you can see the ongoing final grade calculations. But it stipulates for me to have the grades ready for you to view by Friday, July 10th. Okay. We have the slides for week 4, part 2. Go ahead and click on those and zoom out. This is the to-do list for the week 4, part 2. We have a reminder number 1, the online content, the continuation of the Romantic period and authors of the 19th century, some lecture notes, and the spotlight authors, Sojourner Truth and Nathaniel Hawthorne. This is a reminder for you. As we wind down for the rest of the semester, be sure to note that I'm available for student conferences. While my office hours are listed anywhere from 8 to 4, be sure to communicate with me so that I can also do after hours if need be. I can also set up a video conference or phone call so that way you have all your questions answered. Remember, I'm here to help you. Life does happen, but reach out to me. Let's see what we can do. Here are the contents that I just read in the Week 4 Part 2 folder. And so let's go into some more lecture notes. Okay, and these are going to be looking at the continuation of the Romantic period. Nathaniel Hawthorne, Herman Melville, Edgar Allan Poe, Emily Dickinson, and others during the Romantic period represented the first great literary generation produced in the United States. In the case of the novelist, the Romantic vision tended to express itself in the form Hawthorne called romance, a heightened emotional and symbolic form of the novel. Romances were not love stories, but serious novels that used special techniques to communicate complex and subtle meanings. Instead of carefully defining realistic characters through a wealth of detail, as most English or continental novelists did, Hawthorne, Melville, and Poe shaped heroic figures larger than life, burning with mythic significance. The typical protagonists of the American romance are haunted, alienated individuals. The symbolic plots within these texts reveal hidden actions of anguished, tormented spirits. One reason for this fictional exploration into the hidden parts of the soul is the absence of the settled traditional community life in America. American novelists were faced with a history of strife, revolution, and a geography of vast wilderness. As a result, American novelists frequently reveal a revolutionary absence of tradition. Many American novels show a poor main character rising on the economic and social ladder, perhaps because of a good marriage or discovery of a hidden aristocratic past. American preoccupation with freedom became, I had to zoom out for this slide. Now I have to zoom back in. With freedom became a good source of motivation for Romantic writers, as well as delighted in the free expression of emotional without fear of ridicule and controversy. They would also put more effort into the psychological development of their characters, and the main characters typically displayed an extreme of sensitivity and excitement. The works of the Romantic era also differed from the preceding works, and that they spoke to a wider audience, partly reflecting the greater distribution of books as costs came down and literacy rose from the period. The Romantic period also saw an increase in female authors and readers as those rose from the parts that became with history, such as Sojourner Truth. 1797 to 1883, she was an abolitionist, activist for American civil rights, a lecturer for women's rights in schools, lead reformer and the evangelist during the 19th century. She was born Isabella Bonfrey as a slave in the Dutch-speaking country of New York. She was bought and sold 4 times and subjected to harsh physical labor and violent punishments. And there's a couple of other bullet points detailing her life. Sojourner Truth left behind a legacy of courage, faith, and fighting for what's right and honorable. But she also left a legacy of words and songs, including her biography, The Narrative of Sojourner Truth, which she dictated in 1850, since she never learned to read or write. She wrote her beautiful speech, and it includes the following: Ain't I a Woman? Children, who made your skin white? Was it not God? Who made mine black? Was it not the same God? Am I to believe, therefore, because my skin is black, does not God love colored children as well as white children? It did not the same Savior die to save the one as well as the other? Her famous works, given as read from a part of that speech, Ain't I a Woman, as well as her story. We also look to Nathaniel Hawthorne, 1804 to 1864. He was a novelist and short story writer. Longfellow was his colleague during their years at Bowdoin College. He was a pallbearer at Hawthorne's funeral when he died, and he is buried in Sleepy Hollow Cemetery, Concord, Massachusetts. In sketches, tales, and romances published in the second third of the 19th century, Hawthorne chose mainly American materials, drawing especially on the history of the colonial New England and his native Salem in the time of his early American ancestors. Hawthorne, a fifth-generation American of English descent, was born in Salem, one of his ancestors being a judge in the Salem witch trials. Many of Hawthorne's stories are set in Puritan New England, and his greatest novel, The Scarlet Letter, has become the classic portrayal of the Puritan America. It tells of a passionate, forbidden love affair, and it highlights the obsession with morality, sexual repression, guilt, confession, and spiritual salvation. Some interesting facts about him. Him and his newlywed wife in 1842 moved into the Old Mainz in Concord, Massachusetts, and he had colleagues there. A decade later, the Hawthornes moved into another Concord house, the Wayside, the childhood home of Louisa May Alcott, who wrote Little Women. His famous works, Young Goodman Brown, The Scarlet Letter, Rappaccini's Daughter, The Artist of the Beautiful, and The Marble Fawn. I actually have students read Young Goodman Brown in my English 1302 class, and many people have read The Scarlet Letter in high school, but it's interesting to kind of highlight some of his other works that not many people get to read. Okay, we have the text and audio for Ain't I a Woman? It's a speech. We also have Artist and the Beautiful by Nathaniel Hawthorne as well. We have Rappaccini's Daughter, and again, you have to click on the link sometimes to open it up. Whether it's a PDF, you can also have it available to you as it downloads. We have Quiz 4. Quiz 4. It says this quiz is an assessment of the authors and readings found in only week 4, part 1 and part 2, to the best of your ability. 60 minutes per each attempt, 2 attempts. We also have right here the significance of a title. And let me open this up for you. This says, this assignment is a reflection of titles and works reviewed up until this point. It is formatted as a Word document in PDF. You will need to download either version and recreate your own with your completed answers. If you have technical difficulties, let me know. Okay? So I have it either as a doc or a PDF, but also look, I have audio instructions. Yay. So here's a PDF, and I'm going to open it up for you so that way you can see it. All right. So here's the writing assignment significance of a title. This is for our class. In a reading or a work, the title is the story's first impression. People make an impression with appearance, wardrobe, and body language. Stories do it with their titles. Titles create anticipation, expectation, or disinterest. Often the title is what will determine if a story is even read. Directions. Answer each section accordingly. Each will ask for a specific objective. Be sure to include web links, quotes, or the sentence requirement if needed. Okay, so let's look at these. Section 1, the definition and purpose of a title. Using the web, copy and paste any definition of the word title that appears on the web. It can be the first thing that you see on Google or whatever types up, and you're going to put it right here. And you're just going to follow suit with whatever the question asks of you. Okay. Section 2 says themes of titles. Step 1, using only an author from this week 4, write their name below and list a couple of the titles that they have written. This could include novels, titles of short stories or poems, anything that person has written. So if you choose Longfellow, write list a couple of his works. You don't have to add anything else, just the titles. And then it says from those titles, select the title that sounds most interesting or promising, even if you have not read it or read it before. The objective here is to look between the lines and focus on that. Give a response of 3 to 4 sentences as to why you think the title matters. Is it catchy? Is it suspicious? In short, what does the title give off regarding the emotions? List the title below and response based on the judgment or feeling. So let's just say that we're going with Nathaniel Hawthorne. Okay? So you're going to write Nathaniel Hawthorne, but you're going to write all the different works that he has. And then it says right here, from all of those titles, such as The Artist and the Beautiful, Rappaccini's Daughter, Scarlet Letter, and what so have you, put the one that is most interesting and tell me what is interesting about it. So if it's The Artist of the Beautiful, have we read it before? No, up until this point, many students haven't heard of that. But what made it sound interesting? What made it sound memorable? And write a little bit about it. And so it goes into that. And then it says, looking at previous works from the semester only in this class thus far, list 3 titles in each category. Use all the works from weeks 1 through week 4. So give me a couple of titles from each one. So 3 titles that are, not so great, bland titles, if you will, and list those. Appealing or interesting titles of those works, and memorable titles. And then you're going to go into section 4 and do the same thing from the colonial period, the neoclassical era, and the romantic period. And I would like you to take your time with these. It's always a fun activity to look at just the titles of the works that we've done in class. Okay, and now we have the week 4, part 3. We have its slides, and then we have a couple of things to look at right here. Okay, we have the slides for week 4, part 3. My Symphony by William Channing, text and audio. Tears in the Spring by William Channing, text and audio. Oh, sorry, that's the audio. Sea Song by William Channing, text and audio. A Cry to Arms by Henry Timrod, text and audio. 1866 by Henry Timrod. Sonnet 1 by Henry Timrod. Hope is a Thing with Feathers by Emily Dickinson, text and audio. Because I Could Not Stop for Death by Emily Dickinson, text and audio. And then there's a quiz 5, only over those works. We have a discussion board titled Discussion Board Number 8, One of the Last Great Poets, the last discussion board of the class. We also include right here the word count link. And then we also have the peer review journal for the analytical essay. So you may be wondering, how would one do a peer review journal? Well, this one is more so a self-reflection of questions that you'll get to answer on your own for your own essay submission. And then there's an extra credit opportunity number 2. This opportunity will allow you up to 8 points off your lowest grade of the semester. Major grades considered are Letters to the Civil War, the unit exams, and the final exam or the analytical essay. So whichever of the lowest, I put those points towards. And it says to be completing the final exam. And then it just tells you the same reminders that have been listed in the week 4, part 1 and part 2, all the way down to the deadline of the essay, the deadline of the final exam, and the deadline of week 5 things as well. They're all listed. Oh, all the way down here. Okay, so we have the week 4, part 3 slides. Let it open up and then have a little yellow thing right there. Okay, these are their ending lecture notes for the Romantic period. As American society progressed and all the free white males had gained rights, many other groups of people, such as women and other minorities, were denied rights of their own. 19th century reform movements in America began as a struggle between Enlightenment and Transcendentalist ideas. Americans were afraid of becoming too much like Europe, and so these reform movements began as means of differentiating and refining American society. Reformers advocated for equality among various groups of people. Reform movements during this period included abolitionism, utopianism, prison and mental institution reform, temperance, American Indian rights, and the ongoing struggle for women's rights. Writers such as Channing, Timrod, Dickinson used their writing to influence and promote various movements in literature and social reform. Abolition was one of the biggest and, if not the most controversial social reform of the 19th century, and impactful writers and numerous slave narratives that were published argued the end of slavery through ethics and religion. Although slavery had always been a contentious discussion in America, this major wave caused many people to reflect deeply on their beliefs, morals, and religion. Each author during this time supported and advocated for the abolitionist movement in different ways and held different beliefs on slavery and slave owners. Therefore, all their works varied in slightly different themes and ideology. One example of a theme that rang true was that of religion and Christianity. American Romanticism emerged in response to the nationalist values beginning to develop a distinct American literary style. American Romanticism celebrated the unknown as Americans began to venture westward into the newly acquired territories. Authors began to write about the beauty of the natural landscape untouched by man. Then we have William Ellery Channing, 1780 to 1842. the apostle of the Unitarianism, abolitionist, American theologian, essayist. He was a minister, author, clergyman, tutor, and poet. And there's his biography right there. You're more than welcome to take tidbits of it or read all of it. We also have continuation of his biography. He was determined to voice the rights of the individual man. His writings on slavery included war, labor problems, and education. We also have Henry Timrod, 1828 to 1867, called the Poet of the Confederacy, essayist and writer. We have his biography right here. Feel free to dive into the page that spotlights him. We also have Emily Dickinson, 1830 to 1830. I should fix that. She did not live only 6 years. I should go back and fix that. I do apologize. Writer, poet, known for her bold original verses, wrote at least 18,000 verses, knew of the world by traveler tales and what was told from her friends and relatives. Choice was hers to be known as reclusive, and she never married. As a girl, Emily Dickinson was frail and by her parents and others, and was often kept home from school. She excelled in many subjects emphasized in the school. A class in botany helped her become interested in plants. Can't believe I just read that and realized that. I'll go back and fix that in a minute if I'm able to. And there's some of her biography. Continuation of her biography. And she's one of, if not one of the greatest poets that used her voice and her sonnets for the women's movement. We have the Mind Symphony, again, text and audio. Tears in the Spring, Sea Song. A Cry to Arms, 1866. Sonnet, Hope is a Thing with Feathers. And if you notice, many of these poems are going to be very short. Great poems by some of these great authors. We also have Quiz 5. This Quiz 5 is only over the Part 3 works. We have Discussion Board 8, the last discussion board. This discussion is in relation to Week 4, Part 3 only. Ensure that you've read and looked at those. And then it just says, in a paragraph of 7 to 10 sentences, highlight, examine one of the authors by answering these questions about them. Your response can be taken from their text or outside resources. Okay, your word count should at least be 250 words or more. And then step 2, as always, to reply to one other person. You're more than welcome to reply to other people as long as you're replying to one other person within that word count. And then it has a Sunday, July 5th due date. And then I include the word count link right here. All right. So I also include a peer-reviewed journal. Let me go back in. Sorry. All right. So here's the peer-reviewed journal. It says, as with any essay, the use of the writing process details outline and drafting. As this is simply a class online, some type of peer review as a whole may be limited. So below are a few statements that I would ask you and I would like you to fill out and complete as you begin to draft your essay. You do not have to upload the entire essay or attach it. This is simply you just answering these questions in this journal and posting them for your own reflection. You are only completing this as your post. There is no need to reply to other people. Remember, a draft is not the final copy. Here is how you can do this. So simply read the statements and reflect on them. So you can copy the entire section, questions and numbers, and then write your answers with a yes or no format as needed. Or option 2, simply list the questions in number form and just write out yes or no. Be sure one of these is done for the submission of this part of peer review. So for this checklist, you can type out the answers, simply yes or no, or complete sentences. Multiple paragraphs or sentences are not necessary. So whenever I say if you just want a number and put yes or no, you're just simply answering it. And these are just yes or no questions. You can review your essay, but also post your answers and reflection to it as follows. Is there a title? As you're working on that draft, view it and say, oh, there's not a title. Just put no. You can be honest. These are just self-reflection for myself, but also for you as you get ready to turn in your essay. And there's some really good self-reflection questions that help you evaluate. Is your essay ready to be turned in, or do you need to go back and revise a little bit? Some of these questions are not taught for us unless it is a peer review category. Okay, the peer review journal was due on Sunday, July 5th. Then I also have an extra credit opportunity number 2. Create a new document that answers the prompt below. In 7 to 10 sentences, answer the following prompt. No need to do much. And you can't turn in extra credit late, but this one will show you how much it's given to you. This one will allow you up to 8 points on your lowest major exam. Okay. And then it just says, what are you grateful for? And there's a couple of questions that you can consider. Its due date is July 5th at 11:59. And then there's the final exam. The final exam is a collection of works. Read each question as they are different. You'll be given 2 chances with 3 hours each. It will close Sunday, July 5th at 11:59. I will not be able to reopen after this closing due date. Okay. Then we have week 5, the last. Notice that there's 3 things in here, and there's a reason to that. Week 5, the last, has a module that you can turn in the essay along with the annotated bibliography. But there's also a module that if you would just want to turn in the annotated bibliography on its own or separately as a different doc, you're more than welcome to do so. Now, we have to understand that the analytical essay and the works cited page are one specific grade. The annotated bibliography is a separate grade. And as a review, the analytical essay and the works cited page are one. The works cited page is the last page of the essay. It cites all of your sources using MLA, right? You'll find the list of all your citations. If it's a web page or a book or a journal and an article, and you list them using quotes within your essay. The annotated bibliography, just like I've mentioned before, is the expansion of your works cited page. It is simply another document. After every source entry, it'll look just like your works cited page, but after every source, press enter and write a paragraph about how that source was used. You'll use the instructions for the annotated bibliography. It tells you to write a sentence on how it was accessed, how you would summarize that source, and how you reflect on it. Basically saying, I pulled this source from the database. It is verified and incredible because it uses a professor in history or linguistics that talks about this said author. I used it to showcase in paragraph 4 and follow that format. So annotated bibliography, after every source, press enter, and you're going to tell me how it was integrated. Okay. We also have right here the module that you're going to be turning in the letters to the Civil War assignment, and they all follow specific instructions. We also have an extra credit number 3. This one says a chance to earn up to 9 points on the essay or the annotated bibliography or the exam. So this one will only go to that. Due to the strenuous pace of the course, you cannot request a late pass for anything in the week 5 folder. And then it just tells you to be advised because some things may follow a specific deadline. Okay. All right, and so it tells you the due date for the essay. It says that I won't receive anything past Tuesday, July 7th. The window for the exam will run a little bit earlier than June 29th through July 5th, and the grading book. So let's dive into these things real quick. So this one says that the analytical essay and the research paper and the works cited page, this is where you'll turn it in. However, there's a separate module for the annotated bibliography. It's okay if you want to turn them in all together. This is where you can do that. Ensure that it's accessible to me. PDF is preferred, but Microsoft Word as a viewable sheet is accessible. If I cannot view it or see it, or if there's a link sent to me and I cannot open it, I cannot grade it. If you're having trouble, let me know so we can figure out an alternative way. For your convenience, the instructions are also submitted right here as well. And then the module for the annotated bibliography, you are more than welcome to put it separately right here as well. The letters to the Civil War module is right here. You've been working on that since the week 3 part 1 folder. The instructions are also there. Per the syllabus, late assignments can't be submitted after a certain time, but the instructions are also right here as well. Okay. And then the extra credit opportunity number 3. Okay, just tells you to kind of reflect on that one. Okay. And because I'm opening up week 4 and week 5 simultaneously, at any point, if you have any questions, let me know. You can view your upcoming grades at any point using the grade button. It kind of shows you as everything happens in real time. But at any point, if you have any questions, let me know. aestrada@hillcollege.edu. By coincidence, I would also like to say that the course evaluations are now open. You can usually find that on your homepage whenever you sign in. The course evaluation for this course is open. Feel free to do so. It's 100% anonymous. I don't see anything, but we do and hope for all students to participate. I have enjoyed you in this course, and I hope that you remember me for any future classes. If you ever happen to take them, whether online or in person, but I hope that you have a wonderful summer, and at any point, reach out to me.